Most of us have to work to make a living, right? And oftentimes, for many people, it doesn't feel good. And I thought a lot about that over my career and my life and making choices like, oh man, why don't I just leave all this and go follow my spiritual bliss and backpack across Tibet or be a monk somewhere or disappear? But that doesn't feel right either for me. I mean, it's fine for some people, but for me, it felt like, okay, my path this time is to be someone who works. And I ended up doing very well at work. But there's this other part of me that has had a practice since I was 13. And so, how do you blend the two things together? Well, the truth is, work is just a different context for our spiritual lessons, for our lessons of growth. And, work has taught me a certain set of things. And I'm guessing, I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing that if I didn't go to work, if I went and did whatever, that those same lessons would find me. It would just be a different context. So, if we spend so much time at work, most people are working whatever 40 or 50 hours a week and thinking about work more than that. If we're spending so much time doing that in our lives, why shouldn't it be good? Why shouldn't it be just as nurturing and feel a place where I feel at home, a place where I feel like it can be part of my spiritual growth, my personal growth, and ultimately a place of service, right? As we grow, we often, get to this place where we want to give back and be whatever you call it, a light to the world. That can happen at work too. And so, what I'm passionate about is I call it changing work from the inside out. And yes, I want to change work for 3.5 or 3.7 billion people in the workplace. But it really starts, what I really mean by it is that it's each one of us taking responsibility and making our changes and growing in consciousness with our relationship with work. And if we all did that, then of course, the big machinery of work would change as well.
What does it mean to grow in consciousness in the workplace?
Okay, I'll give you, the among friends answer, and, and then I'll tell you how I talk about it in the workplace. So, how I think about consciousness is essentially our ability or our capacity to love or our capacity to be love. Nearly every spiritual path starts with, or maybe even ends with, God or the divine or whatever the word for it is love. And so the more loving you become, the more divine you become. And then, religion gets involved, then adds all these rules and whatever. But that's the root of most spiritual paths. And so consciousness is then our ability to be that thing, right? My mental model for this world is okay, I'm Scott. I'm the personality of Scott this time, right? And that
Hmm.
personality is the body, the mind, the emotions that Scott uses to get around. But at the root of me, my true identity, I would say, is soul. I'm a pure spark of the divine, a part of the divine itself, just kind of unrecognized. Because most of the time I'm coming at life from the consciousness of Scott and not as the consciousness of soul. So first of all, this is kind of my definition is the more I can live as soul, the more conscious I am. All right. So that's my own personal take. Now, what does it mean to be conscious at work? Well, the same thing it means to be conscious outside of work, right? What's my capacity to operate from soul? Well, how does that show up? All right. Well, a conscious business is one that takes care of the whole, creates a balance for all of its stakeholders, not just shareholders. In other words, instead of only focusing on profit, the company or organization is focusing on creating a balance. Yes, for shareholders, they gave you the money, like you owe it to them to create a good business model and give them a good return, but also create a great environment for employees because, employees are our most important resource asset. The better we treat employees, the better the company's going to do. And also creating great value for our customers, right? If we create great value for our customers, they return and, the company does even better. So solving for the whole is the same thing I would do outside of work, right? If I'm being conscious, because as soul, if I'm soul, that means your soul, everybody's soul. It means we're all connected. There's no real difference. Like we're all part of the same fabric at the root of it. So instead of just solving for myself, I want to be of service. Yes, for me too. I'm not selfless. I want to serve the whole, including me. The same thing shows up at work. So that's at the company level, solve for the whole. But then as a manager, it could be, hey, create a great environment while we're doing great work for our people. But you don't have to be a leader to act like this too. I have a friend of mine. We were talking about purpose, and I was wondering what she was going to come up with because her job is she does customer service for a company that makes systems that go in other systems that go in other systems that eventually get sold to another company that maybe someday a consumer would use, right? So it's not the sexiest job in the world. Remember, she does customer service. So she could say, yeah, whatever. Every day I deal with 40 customers. They're all upset. And that's what I do. I have 40 cases that I turn every day. But that's not what she says. What she says is my mission is to make every interaction I have with those customers the best thing that happened to them that day. Is that a soul mission? Yes, it is. Does that show up at work? Yes, it does. Work is just the context by which we express ourselves as soul if we're doing it, in that way.